You only become what you are willing to confront. Carl Jung. Have you ever stopped to wonder how much of your life is shaped by what you refuse to see? There's a vast, mysterious space within each of us, an intricate labyrinth of emotions, fears, memories, and desires that often remain hidden beneath the surface. But what if this darkness, this unconscious shadow, holds the key to our greatest freedom? What if, within that silent depth, lies the true map to who we are? Picture this: a woman who refuses to follow society's script, who chooses solitude, not out of sadness, but out of an understanding that there's an immense power in silence. Her peace is profound, so deep that it's almost unsettling. She doesn't need validation, likes, or external approval. Her internal world has become her sanctuary, her battlefield, her playground. She's discovered a strength in quietness that most will never understand. Why do so many people find themselves trapped in cycles of self-sabotage, endlessly repeating patterns of unhealthy relationships or dissatisfaction, even when they sense that something is missing? Why do we cling to superficial connections even when our gut tells us they're not enough? Perhaps because the idea of facing ourselves in the mirror of our true selves is more frightening than remaining in familiar chaos. We fear uncovering what lies beneath, our fears, our doubts, our shadows. But what if the act of looking inward was the bravest thing you could do? What if your greatest freedom begins exactly there, inside your own mind, your own heart, your own soul? Imagine this: beneath layers of conditioning, past hurts, and societal expectations lies a core of pure, unadulterated truth. It's wild, it's raw, and it's waiting to be uncovered. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And that reaction, this inner confrontation, is what leads to transformation. It's the process of individuation, a journey inward where we integrate all parts of ourselves, the light and the dark, the beautiful and the ugly. Only then we begin to truly awaken. But why do so many resist this journey? Because it's painful. Because it means facing our deepest fears and accepting our imperfections. Sometimes it feels easier to chase external validation, likes, applause, or superficial achievements, rather than sit alone with ourselves in solitude. Yet it's in that solitude that real growth begins. Consider this metaphor. Your psyche is like a vast, ancient forest. Dense, complex, full of mysteries. Most of us prefer to walk along the well-trodden paths, avoiding the darker, less familiar corners. But the real treasures, truth, wisdom, self-love, reside in those hidden, shadowy parts. To access them, you must venture into the unknown, get comfortable with the chaos, and realize that within that chaos is a fertile ground for transformation. Why would someone choose to stay on the surface, where everything is predictable and safe, instead of diving into the depths and discovering who they truly are? Because the unknown often feels terrifying. Because the thought of confronting our shadows, those parts of ourselves we've spent years denying, can seem overwhelming. And yet, in that confrontation lies liberation. Imagine your shadow as a garden you've abandoned, overgrown, wild, sometimes beautiful, sometimes terrifying. The weeds represent negative beliefs or suppressed emotions. The flowers are qualities you've repressed or parts of yourself you're afraid to show. What would happen if you dared to step into that garden and begin pruning and nurturing? What new growth might emerge? How often do you avoid or suppress what you fear most? How much of your life have you spent trying to hide certain feelings, memories, or aspects of yourself? And how might your life change if you started to embrace those parts instead of running from them? Because true freedom begins not when we deny our darkness, but when we accept it, integrate it, and learn from it. This process, called individuation, is Jung's gift to us. The journey toward becoming fully ourselves, embracing every facet of our being, no matter how uncomfortable. And yet it's so rarely spoken about because it requires vulnerability, patience, and unwavering honesty. The question is, are you willing to excavate your own inner landscape? Are you ready to confront the parts of yourself that you've buried deep? because in doing so, you will discover an immense well of strength, resilience, and authenticity that will change everything. And here's the truth. Most people live their entire lives avoiding these questions, unknowingly surrendering their power, living in a herded existence of conformity. But the truly awakened soul refuses to settle for superficial labels or small illusions. There's a wild, free part of you, unyielding, fierce, and infinite, that craves exploration, truth, and genuine awakening. Before we go further, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here, we explore the depths of the mind, the spirit, and the soul, delving into questions that challenge the way we see ourselves and the world. If you find resonance in this journey of discovery, like this video, share it with others, and leave a comment. Your voice matters because it contributes to creating a community of truth seekers, conscious explorers, and inner warriors. Now, prepare yourself for what's coming next. Because the truth you'll discover could be the most transformative insight of your life. Hidden in the quiet corners of your mind and heart is a secret, perhaps the deepest truth you've ever known, that has the power to change everything. Ready to unveil that secret? Let's begin the next chapter of this awakening. Let's take a moment to imagine your inner world as a vast, ancient forest. Deep, intricate, alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. It's a place where shadows dance in the corners, where light peeks through the canopy, illuminating patches of truth buried beneath layers of fear and conditioning. Most people walk along the paths carefully laid out by society, avoiding the darker, denser parts of this wild forest. But the rare soul who dares to venture into this wilderness begins the journey of true self-discovery. Why do we avoid this inner wilderness? Because it's unfamiliar, unpredictable, sometimes frightening. Facing the darkness within means confronting fears we've buried deep. The fear of rejection, inadequacy, or even pain that we're afraid might swallow us whole. But what if, instead of avoiding that darkness, we embraced it as a vital part of ourselves, a necessary element for growth? Jung reminds us that the shadow is a moral, a psychological, and a spiritual fact. It is the hidden, suppressed, and ignored part of ourselves. Imagine your shadow as a hidden cave deep within the forest. In the darkness of this cave sleeps your unacknowledged fears, past wounds, suppressed desires, and unresolved guilt. You might avoid this cave because it seems dangerous or overwhelming. You might even pretend it doesn't exist. But every time you push aside those truths, they gather strength, manifesting as anxiety, self-doubt, or repetitive patterns that trap you in familiar cycles. Now ask yourself, are you willing to go inside that cave? Because the moment you decide to explore, your relationship with yourself begins to change. You begin to see that hiding from your shadows isn't protection, it's imprisonment. The true liberation comes when you turn on your internal lantern and step into those dark corridors, knowing that every shadow you confront is a doorway leading to understanding, healing, and wholeness. Jung explained that the greatest and most important problems of life are lived within. Everything we fear, deny, or suppress about ourselves lives inside us, waiting for acknowledgement and integration. The more you run from those aspects, the more power they hold over your life. But when you take responsibility, when you brave the interior darkness, you realize that these shadows are not enemies, but teachers. They reveal your true nature, your hidden potentials, and your authentic desires. Think of it this way. Your unconscious mind is like a garden, lush and fertile, but often overgrown with weeds of negativity, limiting beliefs, and old traumas. If you tend to this garden with compassion and awareness, you can clear the weeds, nourish the flowers, and watch as new growth emerges. But if you ignore it, the weeds will choke out the life and beauty that's waiting to bloom. What weeds are you ignoring? Which beliefs, fears, or habits are preventing you from blossoming fully? How much of your identity has been shaped by what you've refused to face? And what would happen if, instead of resisting, you name those fears and accept them as part of your journey? Because acceptance isn't resignation, it's recognition, and within recognition lies the power to transform. Now consider this, our shadow often carries projections, traits we disown in ourselves but see in others. Jung believed that what we see in others is a reflection of what we refuse to acknowledge within ourselves. How many times have you judged someone harshly or envied qualities in others that you deny having? And by doing so, you're unknowingly keeping those qualities alive in your shadow. This process of inner excavation demands brutal honesty. It's not easy. It's messy, sometimes painful. But it's through the pain that the alchemy happens, transforming wounds into wisdom, fears into courage, darkness into light. Jung invites us to view our inner conflicts as opportunities for growth, for the development of consciousness, which leads us closer to our true selves. What if every discomfort, every night of sleeplessness, every tear shed in solitude was a sign that you are evolving? What if your pain is actually a signal that you're shedding old layers, like a snake shedding its skin, to reveal a new, vital self beneath? Because true self-awareness doesn't shy away from pain. It embraces it as a necessary part of awakening. But here's the question that might stir your soul. When was the last time you truly looked at yourself with compassion and curiosity? When did you last stand in front of that inner mirror and ask, "Who am I beneath this story I tell myself?" Are you willing to face the truth, however uncomfortable it may be, and embrace it as part of your unfolding story? The answers you seek are buried in those depths, and they won't surface unless you have the courage to dive. So I ask you now, what are you avoiding? What parts of yourself are you pretending don't exist? And what could happen if you allowed yourself to explore those darker corners with curiosity, kindness, and patience? If you did, you might discover a reservoir of strength you never knew you had, hidden in the shadows, waiting to be awakened and integrated into the fullness of your being. Remember, the journey inward is a sacred pilgrimage, a quest to reclaim your wholeness. It's not a destination, but a continual process of unveiling, healing, and becoming. The more you tend to your inner garden, the more vibrant and alive your external life becomes. And so, I invite you to hold this in your heart. Every step you take into the unknown of your mind and soul is a step toward authenticity, towards a life where you no longer hide behind masks, but stand boldly in your truth. Your shadows aren't enemies. They are portals. Portals to your true power, your deepest wisdom, and your most genuine self. Now ask yourself, are you ready to walk into your inner forest, to meet your shadows, and to discover your hidden treasures? Because that's where true transformations begins, inside, waiting for you to accept, confront, and integrate. Imagine standing at the edge of that vast, wild forest within you, knowing that every inch you dare to explore is a step closer to your most authentic self. What if I told you that the greatest freedom in life comes not from escaping your shadows, but from embracing them? That by daring to look inward, you unlock a wellspring of power, peace, and divine purpose. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And the awakening is what lies at the core of this journey. It's an internal revolution, an unlearning of all the false stories and beliefs that kept you small, afraid, and disconnected from who you truly are. This is the moment where healing begins, not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you accept the imperfection within you. You see that your flaws, your wounds, your shadows are not liabilities, they are vital pieces of the puzzle. When you begin to welcome all parts of yourself with compassion, you open the door to profound transformation. Here's a truth that many will never tell you. The love you seek outside begins with the love you give yourself inside. That unconditional acceptance, that gentle patience, that ready forgiveness. That's the real magic. When you nurture that inner sanctuary, your external world begins to shift naturally. People mirror back to you the worth you uphold for yourself. The free journey of self-awareness is not linear. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and sometimes painfully slow. But every small step, every honest reflection, every act of kindness toward yourself creates ripples that extend beyond your own life. When you choose to face your shadows, you're not just healing yourself. You're creating a ripple effect that invites others to do the same. And here's the most empowering truth of all. You are not broken. You are not damaged. You are whole. In process, every scar, every wound, every tear has shaped you into a resilient being capable of incredible love and strength. The key is to stop seeking validation from external sources and instead validate yourself from within. Now I want you to ask yourself, what would happen if you decided today to fully accept yourself? Not just the parts that shine brightly, but also the ones that you hide, the parts you judge harshly, the ones you think are unworthy. Would your world transform? Of course it would, because self-acceptance is the foundation of true freedom. You have the power to redefine your story, to rewrite the narratives that keep you small, to live in alignment with your deepest truths. This isn't just a beautiful ideal, it's a real possibility, waiting for you to claim it. So I invite you, commit to this journey. Take that first, brave step into your inner wilderness with kindness and curiosity. Remember, the greatest revolution in your life begins with awareness. Awareness that you are enough, just as you are. That your shadows contain precious treasures, and they are yours to claim. Before we part, I want you to understand this. The path to self-discovery isn't about reaching a destination. It's about ongoing awakening, about remembering who you truly are beyond the masks, the roles, and the routines. It's about waking up to the truth that your innermost being is already whole, waiting patiently for you to see it. If this message resonated with your heart, share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Subscribe to this channel to continue exploring the depths of your consciousness. Like this video, not out of obligation, but because your soul feels it's important to keep this light shining. Remember, inside you lies a vast universe, endless, infinite, powerful. The only thing standing between you and your awakening is a decision, your decision, to face the unknown and trust in your inner strength. Every step forward is an act of rebellion against the false stories of inadequacy. Every moment you accept yourself fully is a victory over fear. You are not alone in this. The universe is whispering to you through your intuition, your dreams, and your inner voice. Trust that voice. Follow its guidance. Because the true revolution starts within, and when you embrace your shadows and your light, you step into your greatest power. Your true journey begins now. The path to your awakening is inevitable when you choose to walk it. And I promise, nothing, absolutely nothing, is more beautiful and fulfilling than living in alignment with your authentic self. So go forth with courage, with love, and with an unshakable trust in your own divine process. Your greatest self awaits behind the door of vulnerability and truth. Open it, step in, and remember, the most profound transformation happens when you dare to be fully yourself. Nothing less, nothing more.